Okay guys, let's throw some paint on this BT7. I'm using the Tester's Model Master Acrylic Dark Green, FS34079. Bottle number is 4726. I'm also using the Aztec Tester's Model Master Acrylic Thinner. Today is the Neo for Iowata. Not by Iowata, but for Iowata. When you're mixing off on your airbrush, put in your thinner first, a couple drops of your thinner, mix off about the consistency of milk. As you can see, it's spraying nice and smooth there. I'm using between 18 and 22 psi. Now we base coated this in black. Just give it a quick blow with no paint coming out, and then just pick a spot to start here. So when you're doing this, just remember light coats of paint, very light. That way you can leave a little bit of the black showing through for your shadows and gives it a lot more depth. When you're using a black undercoat, it gives your models a heck of a lot more depth, and also you automatically have your shading already in place. Now if you want, you can go afterwards and we'll do a little bit of post shading. We'll show you that. But just paint each piece and just go light. Go almost translucent light coats. You don't need to paint the whole damn thing in one heavy coat. Let the black show through in spots. Let the black kind of work itself in the shadows and in the recesses and corners. Okay, I'm going to shut this off and get some painting done here, and then we'll do the turret. Okay, we got the base coat on, misted on. Now we're just going to want to go in with a little slightly thinner coat and just fill in the heavier areas in between panel lines and whatnot. Now the tops of the toolboxes, the top of the air cleaner. Tops of the fenders, tops of the fuel tanks. Basically what you're doing is you're hitting all the areas if the sun was coming straight down on top and leaving the rest of it in shadow. Like along the edges here, we're just going to go really light amount of black, really light amount of green on that, and we're going to call this chassis done. Now we've just got a light coat on the turret here. So basically we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to fill in as if the sun were coming straight down on top. And then we'll leave some shadows in along the seams. It's the whole point of using the black. It gives you so much deeper, richer color. And then you can use the existing black as a whole pre-shade on the entire vehicle. Now what we could do now, don't have any, yes I do. What we're going to do here is we're just going to put a little bit of the German Dunkel glove, the Panzer Dark Armor Yellow. We're just going to lighten this up a bit. Okay, we added a little bit of German Dark Armor Yellow to the paint cup just to give it a slightly sun-faded look. Now try not to use whites if you want to fade, because the white just kind of washes the color out and makes it look kind of dead almost. So think of where the sun would shine and cause this to fade out. Now I'm just going to add a little bit along the big flat surfaces here because they're so big and they are so flat. Remember, light, thin, light translucent coats is the key. It's the key to painting armor, and it's the key to painting figures as well. Thin, light coats, multiple thin, light coats, just taking your time, spraying in between where you have it. Now we've got just a slight, very subtle tonal variation here. Now we're going to hit all the flat surfaces as well. Alright, so just hit the flat surfaces where it will get some sun fading. And you can just kind of keep an eye and see where the paint kind of hits and changes color on the surface. You just want to keep it nice and even. You want to keep the effect very, very subtle. You don't want to make a big, unless you're going for really super high contrast. Keep it subtle. And I like this Neo, but it may not be the best for doing fiddly work. This is more for doing big, open, this is one if you just want to color code a car or something, you just want to go big swash of heavy color, go for the Iwata. If you can want to do a little bit finer work, and probably when I do the post shades and the shadows, we will definitely be using the other high-end HPC one. Go figure, I got a little bit of either puppy hair or cat hair in here. I love my animals, but some days. So there you have it, guys. Adding a little bit of tonal variation and color variation to your models is pretty damn simple. Just a matter of just do it. So we'll set this aside and let this cure for a day. Then we'll shoot some, probably let this sit for an hour or two, and then we'll go ahead and we'll break out the other Iwata and we'll do some post shading. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of post shade on here, and it definitely adds a lot more dramatic, higher contrast on a kit is when you put the post shade on. You don't necessarily do it on every kit. I find that it's far more dramatic if you do it on a single colored kit versus a camouflage kit. So what we're going to use here is the Vallejo surface primer mixed with the Vallejo airbrush thinner, about 70-30, 70% airbrush and 30% surface thinner. You can go as high as 80-20, 90-10. You almost want basically a dirty water. Now we're going to crank the poundage up to about 22 pounds, and we're going to use a super thin, I've switched back to the Iwata HPC Plus for this. You want really thin lines, so just take a couple of shots, figure out where you want to be with your nozzle, and now you're just going to pick some panel lines, and we're just going to carefully highlight them. We're going to hit the ends of the gas tanks. Spots there where you may have a little bit of now this is very subtle, guys. You don't want to go heavy-handed when you're doing this. Alright? And basically what we're doing is we're just adding some shadows. So you want to get into the bottom of those fenders. In around some of the rivets. Like I said, what you're doing is you're adding shadows to the kit. You're just adding a little bit more depth. And a lot of this stuff will be brought out even more when you add washes, pin washes, to make these seam lines pop even more. Like I say, it's very, very subtle. That's the whole key to this, is just subtle. Make it pop just a little bit more. Okay? Now we do this, then we go through and we do the detail painting. We paint out the Pioneer tools, the shovels, any other detail stuff, the jacks. But this is basically, we do all this stuff before we even start thinking about weathering. This is kind of part of the weathering process, but it's also part of the painting process. It gives you your base to start to weather. Now I added a little bit more thinner there because I just wasn't happy the way this was spraying. I just wanted it to be a little bit more translucent. This is kind of unfortunately typical with Vallejo paints. I have to admit, I'm getting away from airbrushing with Vallejo, and I'm primarily doing, they're great for brush painting. So you could have done some, what I guess I'm going to have to do is get some Model Master black acrylics and basically use the Model Master and transition away completely from Vallejo stuff, especially their Model Air stuff. I can't. It just clogs. It's a cloggy. Things like these exhaust pipes, we're just going to give them a light translucent black, and then we will paint them in a rust, in a dark brown. But that's what you want to do, is just really gently go through and highlight your shadow areas. Now make sure you don't want your model looking black as night. I remember some of those old Verlinden stuff from the 80s. Holy Christ, the whole thing was like night. But that's just how simple post shading is, guys. A very translucent paint. You can use this on aircraft, not so much on, you know, nice car models, but something if you want to do a clunker or a junker, you can highlight the panels. It just gives it a little bit more sense of depth, and the illusion of depth. I mean, we are working with 3D, with a 3D subject as it is. But this way you just get a little bit more, just a little bit more visual pop when you do this. And then of course we'll do around the there. Subtle, subtle, subtle. Alright, there's our post shading, boys. Thanks for watching.